www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse
In a critical situation, the Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
You're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe.
And 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good morning and welcome to the first live broadcast of the weekly business hour on Conroe FM 106.1 and FM 104.5. It's exciting for me as your host, Rick Schissler, to be back on live radio. It's been some time, but the transition, all the pieces are falling into place. Just got an I to dot, a T to cross, and we'll be there. So thank you for your patience. And if you're listening on FM, thank you again. It's a great way to get our message out there. Well, this morning I think we put together a real good show. But before we get started, I always like to ask a question of the day. Hopefully you walk away and you've got something to think about. And my question today is, what is your story? You know, there's been a lot of discussion out there, a lot of articles, even webinars about storytelling. And I've always believed in storytelling, and it's gotten real popular. In fact, I even went to a webinar last week on storytelling, on some of the fine points, because I'm curious, I'm interested in the subject. But that aside, you know, every business needs its story. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the clients and the people I've worked with, people I have group discussions with, it's one of the things I encourage businesses to do if they're not already doing, and that's telling their story. What a story does, it tells people who you are, it gives them information about where you are, and if it's memorable, which is really important, if your story is well thought out and it's memorable, then people will remember it, so when they need your products or services, they'll remember you. And that's really why you're telling your story, right? Is so people remember you. Today's world and media, I don't have to tell you, there's so much out there. It's so crowded. Messaging coming at us from all different directions, quite literally. And if you have a memorable story, you'll be amazed that down the road, a week, 2 weeks, 6 months, even a year later, perhaps even longer, people need your service, they need to buy your products, then they will remember you, and that's the key part. And the final thing is, I encourage you to make your business story part of your culture. In other words, your people, the folks that work with you, even your vendors, along, of course, with your customers or clients, need to know your story. Share your story with them. Get them involved in the story. A story is not a static thing. It's an ongoing process. Your book about your business, about you, new chapters are added as you go through the life of your business. Include those people, vendors, your employees, your customers in your story. Keep it going. It's a lot of fun if you get involved in it. In fact, it's kind of become a hobby with me to explore storytelling, and it's amazing how many people out there, small businesses, large businesses, have developed some really good stories. So learn from what they're doing and see if you can start telling the story of your business. You know, the weekly business hour is where Montgomery County and businesses, quite frankly, throughout the world now, are coming to talk about the latest in business news, to ideas to improve their business and be part of the conversation that we hope will make a real difference in their business even today. Remind you that if you are on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, this broadcast is live over those channels right now. We have a lot of listeners that use those for live as well as follow up later on our replays. Just go to the Weekly Business Hour page to connect through YouTube and Facebook. And a reminder that if you have a question about the show, you got a question about something we did, or even a specific question for one of our guests or myself, shoot it to me. It's real easy. Just send it to 1, that's the number 1, onebestconsult@gmail.com. onebestconsult@gmail.com. So now let's get down to business. I want to introduce our guest today. Very blessed to have Scott Harper with us. Scott is the president of the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. And he's going to join us today, and we're going to have a conversation about the chamber and the part it plays right here in Montgomery County with our business community. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Well, I want to start out and talk about the history, a good place to start, of the chamber and your involvement in it. So talk to us about the history. Chamber's been around a long, long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, going back in your segue into storytelling, Howard Tellefson is, individual. One of his best quotes that I heard him say is, talking when we talk about donors and talking about different things is, numbers tell, but stories sell. And you just talk about how, a lot of people talk about numbers and this is what we do, but how do we create that relationship? And that's the telling part, and the selling part is the numbers should be the byproduct. It's the relationship that causes that. But our chamber has been around since 1934. We're going to celebrate 88 years this year. When I was here before, we celebrated 80 years. The 75th anniversary kind of came and went without any party. So we had a party on the 80th, and then we are getting ready for the 90th. And then if all goes well, in 12 short years, we'll be celebrating 100 years. Our original name, our official name actually is the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, because we were the first back 88 years ago, and now it's, we take on doing business as the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. But it's been around for a number of years. A lot of great stories and people and families that have been involved in the history of our chamber, and we just love celebrating those guys, and I think that's something I'm really going to be focusing on. And as we're going through our a change and a move with our chamber from one side of the building to the other, we've unearthed a lot of boxes of pictures and different boxes of just data, and I'm hoping to find an intern soon that we can put that together to have 12 years to really have a cool 100th anniversary of the chamber. But the mission stays the same, is to advocate for our business community, and as small as it was back then, it was still strong. And it continues to grow today, and as we're part of one of the fastest growing cities in the country.
You make a lot of wonderful points. The thing that always impresses me with businesses and institutions like the chamber here in Conroe, Lake Conroe, is longevity. I mean, that's something it seems to be disappearing in American business. Businesses are just not around. They get sold, they get split up. They're not the same business. They get closed. Right now, a lot of small business owners are aging out. It's amazing the high percentage, more than half, just choose to lock the doors. Mm-hmm. So what do you attribute the longevity to of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I think just obviously being in Conroe, it being the county seat, a lot of traffic, a lot of commerce here. People come here for a number of different reasons. Probably some good, some not so good if you're dealing with some of the court opportunities. But just that one entity in itself, when they have jury selections, I know when they have their breaks, the local restaurants, they need a place to eat. There's all kinds of different things that tie into that. Coming in, leaving, they need to buy their gas. And it's just, that's one of the economic engines. And we have one of the most beautiful lakes in the area. People come into that area. That's why we make sure that, as the name has changed a few times, but the Lake Conroe is part of our name. And we feel that's a huge part of who we are and what we stand for. And one of the other areas that I think it's not necessarily commerce related, but I think it's what attracts people to our areas is just the quality of life, and that we have a national forest that surrounds the north side of the lake. And a lot of people come and stay in those hotels or maybe camp, but they buy their food at a local grocery store before they go on those camping trips. So there's a lot of different ways that people come here. And as I told people when I was moving to Houston, like, oh my gosh, Houston? I'm like, well, we're far enough but close enough to Houston. And I think that's what really sets us apart to our location here in the Conroe and the greater Conroe area.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to live in a business area where you, like you say, you're close enough but far enough. So you've got your own commerce here in Montgomery County, your own business, your own things happening that are unique, so to speak, here. But you have a lot of folks that come from Houston, if not for recreational purposes, but also jobs. The Woodlands is part of Montgomery County for the most part, a great center of commerce that's grown and grown. It's really an interesting mixture of business, but also great recreational opportunities for people that not only live here, but from a major city like Houston can come and take advantage of.
Well, I think that's, the point that you made there hit, as I heard this yesterday or last week when I was at the Woodlands Economic Outlook Conference. I attended that because it's always good to hear local information about what's going on with your neighbors down south. And JJ was very gracious and extended an invitation for me to attend. But how many people that actually live in Montgomery County but actually don't work in Montgomery County is huge, and that's because of they wanted a different pace and quality education in the Montgomery County area, but they actually do work in Harris County or in where the energy sector, and they're hitting that Beltway or the Grand Parkway to get back home every evening. And so I think that's a big, just location. You hear that a lot of times with developers, and now with everything going on in the real estate market as well. We're prime right here on 45.
Well, and if you're still not a believer of what Scott's talking about in economic activity, it must be noted that Exxon just located their corporate offices here to their huge campus. Technically, it's in Harris County, but it really is just on the line there. So they're considered part of the Woodlands, and it's a huge complex. So now we are the location for a world headquarters of one of the largest, been around forever corporations there are in the world, and I think that's significant.
And I think, one of the things we haven't discussed, but you were talking about earlier about just the changes and what keeps, us viable during this time is, people that have been around longer have tended to be able to get through the pandemic in a better or a more efficient way. There's been other chambers and other nonprofits that, the only reason that they were open last year is because they had the PPP money and funding and support. This year's going to be really hard for them. Just some stats from what I saw from in the Y world, which is what, the world I lived before. 30 to 40% of the independent Ys might not be around by the end of this year. And there's 15 to 20% of some of the smaller chambers are really going to have to make some tough choices as they go through, the fallout of that. Because I think the PPP funding was a great mechanism. We were able to capitalize on that as well, but it didn't make or break us. It helped us and supported us for us to be able to continue to do what we did. But other people they had to have it to survive. So it'll be interesting to see, what that looks like here as this year continues to go through and see how they respond.
Well, I definitely think my personal opinion and observation and I guess forecasting is we're going to see a lot of changes in American business as well as other parts of our country and our social and economic systems, but I think it's going to be fairly interesting, maybe not as dramatic as we went through the last 2 years, but I think the long-term impact, obviously, historically, these things last 2, 3, 4 decades even, and I think we're going to see some significant changes. So, grab your hat and hold on. Real quickly, you have sort of made a full circle to being involved with the chamber and being in the leadership. Just a little bit of background on yourself so people that are listening know what the leadership, at least at the president's level, is all about at the chamber.
Yeah, not too many times you get to succeed your successor. Unique story in the fact that, I served on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors when I was leading the YMCA here locally. And during some transition with that, I was asked to be a part of that, be a part of the chamber when Stu Darcy had been with the chamber for probably 17, 19 years total. And so he decided to retire. And so I went through that process. I really liked what I saw of being a board member of just the difference that the chamber can make and how they support the business community. And so I went through and came on board and really was able to help, I think, with the board and our staff revitalize that chamber. I think some complacency had set in. We were able to go through a lot of different just opportunities and discoveries, and we were able to get accredited. And then the whole time I was there, the Y kept trying to recruit me back. And so after I felt like I had gotten the chamber to a certain spot, the Y wanted me to come and be a major gift officer in the community that I was the chamber president, and also had worked at the Y, because their development plan was very aggressive, and they needed somebody that knew the area. So I went back to the Y, and then Harvey happened, had a transition with the CEO, and then COVID. And so, and then during all that, I saw that, Brian Bondi, who had replaced me, left to go be closer to family. And so I was like, hey, I wonder if they would take me back. Second child going to college in Texas, so we didn't want to leave the state. So now I'm back and been able to see a lot of familiar faces like yourself, and on the board still, and just the community as a whole. There's a lot of just familiarity with who I am, and then me with them, and it was just a great time to come back. And we've got a lot of exciting things planned, and I'm glad that I'm back to be able to be a part of that.
Well, you definitely have created a lot of excitement. I know a lot of people are glad to have you back at the helm and are very excited and kind of revved up to take the chamber up to the next level, as the expression is. But first, we're going to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a commercial break at this point. I hope you'll stay with us. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Scott, talk a little bit more in detail about what the chamber really does in the community and what the benefits are for you as a business to be a member of the chamber. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your questions. Get seen on TV, YouTube, and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Support your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Want to check out the fastest growing sport in the world? It's right here in Conroe, Texas, and it's roller derby. Conroe Roller Derby is a nonprofit recreational league of women and men who want you to come and check out the fast-paced, hard-hitting game of roller derby. The Conroe Cutthroats practice at Rainbow Roller Rink on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. You can find our game schedule and more information on our website, www.conroerollerderby.com.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Health Center Southeast Texas is a federally qualified health center. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, and most major private insurances. For our self-pay patients, we have a sliding scale discount program available. Our health centers have qualified providers and staff striving every day to provide the best quality of care to our patients. Services offered are family medicine, behavioral health services, telepsychiatry, and pediatrics. We have 4 area locations. Look up the Health Center Southeast Texas online at hcset.com.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and I'm here with Mr. Scott Harper. Scott is the president of the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce, and we're talking about the chamber and been around now 88 years, celebration of 88. Longevity is there, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the chamber really does in the community. why a Chamber of Commerce, I guess, in general is so important to a thriving business community. So, Scott, let's start off. I mean, what does the Chamber do to improve the situation in the community?
Yeah, and like I said before, our mission statement is pretty simple: to promote and advocate for businesses. And one of the things that, I think the biggest role the Chamber does is how do we become the voice of business for those businesses that might not know that they need a voice or they know how to have a voice. A lot of the times, and what I tell people too, look, we've got a lot of great large sponsors and members that we've had from the beginning. Our charter members go back to the original companies with Consolidated and Entergy, the Courier, and some others, and we're able to leverage the resources they give us to be able to provide opportunities for those smaller businesses that might not have their own HR department or a marketing department. So we're able to bring in different training opportunities, webinars, last couple of years, Zoom meetings, to where we bring in subject matter experts and allow those members to, as a part of being a member, have access to those trainings because they're struggling with things. One of the things we saw during the pandemic was, some our small businesses having to figure out how to do online commerce and e-commerce because they never had to. It's always been foot traffic, come into my shop. But they got into a bind when people couldn't come for those couple months of everything being shut down. So they go online, they do everything the cheapest that they can, and those things aren't always the best just because they're the cheapest. And so a lot of them had some serious issues on tracking and learning a whole nother side of a business that they've never had to do before. And so we're able to provide those opportunities too when people have problems. When we're able to reach out to some elected officials, they'll take the Chamber's call. And so we don't try to bombard them with everything, but if somebody's having a problem and wants to have that relationship and have that conversation with one of our elected officials, we're able to help do that. And I think that there's some power in that. We carry a lot of our legislative agendas, and we build our agendas based off of what the small businesses are telling us that they need. A lot of different areas when it comes to insurance and reimbursement for the CARES Act money, anything that they have, we put those together, and then we'll go over and help advocate for them. We also testify on behalf if our school districts or other industry leaders need to go over to Austin and talk. Then if they ever need people to advocate on their behalf, then they typically ask the Chamber to go and help testify on their behalf and tell the stories of what we know and what we've heard with our members and how that piece of legislation might impact that in a detrimental way. And so that's a lot of people just don't know they have that access, and that's something that we're able to bring to the table. And then, telling our story through our marketing and what we do from our diplomat program, and we have a lot of people that come on to and help us, and they're an extension of our staff, but they're in front of people as much as the staff are sometimes, and so they're able to advocate and promote their business just by being around. And I think at the end of the day, and we've said this a couple times today already, it's the relationships. It's the more that you're around people, the more that they get to see who you are and what you're able to do. And sometimes the Chamber is just that conduit, and we've put two people in a room together under a premise of a networking event, but synergy takes place, and the next thing you know that they're working together. They have a business relationship and a personal relationship that continues to help and benefit each of them. So, I mean, from A to Z, there's so many different opportunities that the Chamber has, and I think one of the things we're trying to do as we went through a board retreat in December is, what do we do well? And let's just that whole good to great theory, and let's figure that out and circle the wagons and do that even better. And those things that maybe we're not the best at, then do we need to offer them? If they don't go and align with our mission, then we might not need to be doing those anymore. And there might be somebody else in the community that does, and we'll let those people know who those people are so they can support them in those ways.
One of the things I personally enjoy, and this chamber particularly, because I've been associated with a number of chambers in my career, is the connection it provides. Now, the obvious you mentioned, the networking is an obvious, but like you said, somebody needs some help on a legislative level that you can connect. But there's a lot of other situations that you provide. Just the fact that you're the Lake Conroe Chamber is so much in the community itself because it's grown with the community, and it hasn't cut off any parts of the business community. Right. I'm a solo. I work myself, maybe highly successful, making several $100,000 a year in my business. There's a place that I can plug in and get information. And toot my own horn for a moment. We have roundtables, business roundtables.
I'm glad you did, because I was getting ready to mention that. I mean, I think that's one of the things that makes our chamber unique is people like you giving back. And yes, and you can talk more about them, but I just want to say thank you for that, because that's what makes us, I think, very special. And the fact that you have a nonprofit and a CEO roundtable, that those people come yearning for that information, and a lot of times they're not getting it. And the chambers, we provide the room, we have a great volunteer that's helping lead that, but we get out of the way. We don't have to do anything else other than book the room and let you do your thing. But that's a great example.
Well, and I think the willingness of the chamber to take on and support those type of endeavors, and it's been my observation, and I tell the groups, the table members, ultimately the people that are on those tables, most if not all of them, are at the top of their class, so to speak. I mean, these people, I am so awed by them. And I owned 5 businesses in my life, worked in a family business which was considered the best in its industry. And I'm just awed by the way these folks, day in and day out, all aspects, run, grow their businesses. And so there's a chance for people to come into an organization like the Chamber, connect into that specific activity, and there are other activities that you provide that I think are very, very important. What are some of the other benefits? If I'm on the sidelines, I've got a small business, maybe have a few employees, maybe have 50 employees, or maybe I'm even larger. Right. I'm impressed by how you've been able to integrate these large national or even international companies or large banking systems. They don't just send a check, they participate. Right. Talk about other benefits that are there that I might not see if I'm looking at the chamber.
Well, I think one of the things that is one of the things we're going to heighten, and you'll see more of, even though we've been doing a lot of work with it, is workforce development. The relationship we have with Lone Star College, the Lone Star College Conroe Center, when it's really looking at, and they've done an amazing job with their trade certificates, and just at the Economic Outlook Conference that we just went to, and I've heard this number of times, is, you can go in and get a trade certificate and come out of school with zero debt, making $75,000, $80,000 versus coming out of school with $70,000 to $80,000 of debt and making maybe more money, but taking you 15 to 20 years to be able to pay that debt off. And I think that's one of the things when it comes to workforce development, and the large organizations moving to this area, and the great job that Danielle Shiner does with the Conroe Economic Development Group is amazing. They're choosing Conroe to be their headquarters, and our tech park and our industrial park, and being there and they need workers. And so having that relationship with Lone Star, we have a great partnership with Sam Houston State University as well, and then the University Center at Lone Star that represents multiple universities. There's just a lot of great opportunities for us to connect people. Lone Star has their workforce development center, which Linda Head leads. They meet with them, they understand what those needs are, and they develop the curriculum based off those companies' needs versus a company coming in and having to pick from a menu. They get to choose and build their own menu, and I think that's very unique. And so the relationship we have with them, some of the support mechanisms, we do a lot of job fairs in partnership with the economic group as well. It's just helping people find people, helping people train people, helping people just connect. We had the first job fair after the pandemic a couple weeks ago, and it was well attended. But what we found was there was more people needing to hire than people seeking jobs until the government will cut off this slush funding they have for people through unemployment. And I think that's going to start once that slows down and that's turned off, which it's starting to. But that's affected a lot of people because the employers were yearning for, we were expecting a whole bunch of people to show up. And we had a good crowd, but not what you would think in today's times, but they're still getting those unemployment checks, and I think that's skewing some of their, I think a lot of people, they make the decisions of what's going on right now, but they're not thinking, what, a month from now, 3 months from now, what is this going to be?
3 years from now.
They're going to milk it for as long as they can, and people are savvy enough to figure out those loopholes. But we also heard some great testimonials of people coming in and needing a certain certificate, and 3 people would come in with those, and so they had interviews set up. So that might have been the only 3 people they talked to, but it was very beneficial because they found quality applicants.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of neat things. You've got special events. That's one of the things also that is a great benefit of being involved and connect and be a member of the chamber. What are some of the special events coming up in the near future?
Yeah, one of the things we partner with, and it's more of a community event, but we have the Go Texan Parade that's coming up Saturday. We partner with the Houston Metro Go Texan Committee here locally, which will essentially turn and bring back over $200,000 of scholarships for kids that are in our Conroe and Willis ISDs. Montgomery is actually in a different district, so we do not. They don't overlap here. They were in with Magnolia in that area, but we will have. We've got over 100 and something entries this Saturday. But what we're trying to do too is, as I'm getting back in rhythm with these guys, is how do we do more downtown and drive commerce instead of people just driving in and watching a parade, which is awesome. Come early, have lunch at Vernell's or Red Brick Tavern or one of the other restaurants, and I mention them because those are chamber members, or go shopping in some of the downtown antique shops and those type of things. So that's the next one coming up. Our Lake Conroe Regional Outlook, we partner with the Montgomery Area Chamber of Commerce as well on this, and then we bring in different people to talk about the growth. We have all 3 district superintendents going to come and talk about. 2 of them are going out for bonds, and the other one has bonds. They're still building from previous bonds, but really the school districts drive a lot of what we're doing, and the quality of education that people have in our area is amazing. So they're going to talk about their demographics and their studies, and we also have a gentleman that came a few years ago, and Steve Splillette. He's community development strategies, and he did and gave all the numbers about 5 years ago, and he's coming back to show that he wasn't, in theory, he was wrong, because all the numbers that are happening, but they're just happening a lot quicker than what they thought they were, because we are in a hotbed of growth and change, and so that's going to be very telling. And so everyone will be able to leave with that information and see, where we were, what their projections were, and how fast we are ahead of the pace, how far ahead we are of everything that they're saying is coming. It's just coming a lot quicker.
Yeah, things are just blowing and going, and it's important that as a business owner, again, regardless of what size I am, to have a sense, at least in the back of my head, as I make decisions of growing my business, how to expand, where to expand, products, services, everything, that I have a general understanding of what's happening out my back door, even if I sell online.
Right.
It's important.
Right.
I know some folks have been looking for a location to buy a piece of land, build a warehouse type building to do some light manufacturing, and they're blown away about the cost of the land. So you miss these opportunities, so you need to jump in. Well, Scott, as we wind down this morning our conversation, what do you see? We were talking about all this growth. What do you see down the road the next 5-10 years or so, or beyond, if you like, as far as growth here in Montgomery County and growth of the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah. I think, as all the demographics, all the numbers that are coming through, we're going to continue to grow. That's not going to slow down anytime soon. That continues. The things that we were talking about when I was at the chamber between 2012, 2015 are the things that are happening now. That's how far out people are planning and talking about these. We're envisioning the corridor from essentially, you have nothing stops when it comes from development from Houston to Conroe. We're going to see that continue up 45 through Willis all the way through Huntsville, and probably from Huntsville to Dallas. It will just be one, corridor of commerce, and you're seeing that even in Walker County, because we used to live up there as well. As the front 100 acres or so that's along the 45 that has access to 45, those farmers and landowners are starting to sell those parcels off because they have that access. And then once the rest of the 99 continues around to the port, it's just going to be a whole nother artery of traffic, but it's really commerce moving back and forth to the port. Danielle and their projections out in the industrial park and that whole area is going to continue to grow. Just the warehouse itself, the distribution center from Home Depot being in our backyard, and there's more to come. There's a laundry list of multiple projects that have code names that no one can know who they are yet, but there's a lot of things happening. Going out west and going into the Montgomery area, that 105, it seems like every time I go, and that's where I drive to go to work, go home and come to work, is there's always something new popping up, and that's going to continue to grow. And then you look at Willis, the HEB coming in, the school bond that they have with these additional schools. It is just a great place to be, and we do not see that slowing down over the next 5 to 10 years. A quick example: my son opened up as a sophomore in Lake Creek High School when those two schools split. Lake Creek High School is almost at capacity, and that school's only been open for a couple of years. And the development that's going along 2854 that's going to need to be 4 lanes yesterday.
I agree with that one.
You travel that, right? And so when you start looking at all those rooftops coming, and how many more traffic lights are going to have to be added to control that, and that's the thing with the chamber that we're really looking at. We've got 5 subcommittees under our legislative affairs group now, and each one of those subcommittees, it used to be one big one.
Right.
Now each one of those is going to look at transportation and the mobility aspect, water, healthcare, education, because they all have those. Everybody needs to know what's going on, and so we're really diversifying our portfolio on how we're going to attack those and where we can be a brighter beacon of light and information for our chamber members. So I think our members over the next couple of months will start seeing that, because we're going to be able to. We're doing the work now that what we talked about in December at our retreat. That's going to start hitting the pavement here in March.
Well, Scott, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. You've given, in my opinion, a tremendous update and a great inside look at our Chamber of Commerce here in Conroe. And I learned something, the Montgomery County Chamber. I've got that now.
That's our official name. Yes.
I didn't keep that. I did not know that bit of history. So I've learned a lot today about the Chamber, and I hope our listeners out there have learned. And if you're not a member of the Chamber and you're in the business community here in Montgomery County, in particular in Conroe, you don't have to be in Conroe to be a member. I encourage you to check it out and connect yourself and your business with the Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce. Scott, if they're interested and want to talk to somebody, what's the best way for them to communicate?
They can simply call the chamber or go to our website. Our website is conroe.org, or they can call 936-756-6644, and any of the staff can help them in any way. Beth Shelton is our membership director, but all of us at the chamber in the membership category, so any one of us can help them answer any questions they might have.
You've got a great staff over there. It's been my pleasure to work with them and connect with them. So again, encouragement. If you're not a member, if you are a member and you really haven't connected, get connected. Spend a little bit of time, attend events, join a committee, and there are a lot of other things that can help you and your business. Well, in the second half, coming up after the bottom of the hour break, I'm going to go again to the mailbag. I had an interesting question come in that is part of this reopening of the country, sort of. But the question is, how can I compete with large businesses? Lots of shuffling around in businesses. That's been an issue for hundreds of years. Small business, big business, how do I compete? And we're going to touch on several potential ideas that I think can help you in your business today. And then my one best consult tip of the week, the 5 biggest challenges for small businesses in America today. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education program that helps consumers understand how their food choices impact their health by making the connection to agriculture. Learning about how food is grown and produced and how consumers can make better food choices for themselves and their families, Path to the Plate is all about dispelling myths and misconceptions. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/ConroeCulture.
Remember to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on your computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. Lone Star Community Radio broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Schissler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and I want to thank you for joining us this week. And a reminder, your business can sponsor this program. Yes, Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit, but we accept sponsorships. And if you want to particularly sponsor a program, you get a chance to put out a message and talk about your business on this program. So please consider being a sponsor if you own a business here in Montgomery County. There's a lot of benefits with connecting to community radio, Lone Star Community Radio. Just drop me a line at rick@irlonestar.com. That's rick@irlonestar.com. Mailbag. I love the mailbag. I love to hear from you and our listeners. with not only questions about business, but also comments about the show. How can we get any better unless we're listening to you? So please consider sending in your questions about what's going on in business, and either I'll answer them direct or perhaps they'll end up in the mailbag. And the mailbag today, I think, is a very appropriate question. How can I compete with larger businesses? Sam W. wrote, "We have been in business for over 10 years. We've been profitable for 8 of those years, but I find it increasingly difficult to compete with larger businesses. They have more money to advertise and market, and typically they produce and sell their products at lower prices. The pandemic has really made a lot of my customers more cost conscious, and inflation, I suggest, Sam, is not helping that either. How can I more effectively compete against the big boys?" Great question, as I said. And again, inflation is in the news right now. That's got to even bring more pressure for customers, clients, to look around at alternatives in order to stay within their budgets, save money on what they buy and the services they use. Well, I have 5 ideas that by themselves or together may give you a fighting chance to win that war against the big boys. First of all, always look at what they are doing and see how you could adapt and adopt their approach to strengthen your position. You know, so many times I've had people tell me, small business owners, well, they do this or that. There's, I can't do that. But if you'll take a moment and look at it, look exactly what it is they're doing that you feel is giving them an edge competition-wise, then see if there's a way you can do that in a little bit different form, obviously at a lower price point or investment of your dollars, the expense of it being different. There are a lot of great ideas. Some of the best ideas I ever had in business came from bigger competitors that I watched and listened and then made it work, sized it down, downsized, right, to fit in my business. You can do the same thing. An example, where they advertise and develop their own ad program, you can do the same thing on a smaller scale. They're selling a message, take that message, see how you can adapt that message to your business. Don't copycat, but make it work for your business and your budget. It is done all the time by small business. Secondly, be sure you realize you're a small business, and as such, you have one really, really big advantage, and that is you're more agile to ability to adjust and quickly change your business as conditions change. I contend that if you had the proper cash reserves, even COVID gave you a chance to outcompete in some areas of your business with the big guys, because you could adapt to local conditions. When businesses were shut down, people went to online selling. I know of business, great stories here in the Montgomery County area where a business couldn't open the doors of their store. This happens to be in Harris County. They had an online presence, but they beefed it up, made it easier to shop, spent money on advertising, digital advertising, and all of a sudden their online sales surpassed anything that they had done at their storefront on Main Street, so to speak. And so now as they've reopened, they have 2 businesses, and they have worked to keep both of them. They have effectively doubled their sales during a pandemic. Those are the kind of things, extraordinary in their case, but the outcomes can be profitable to you and your business. So I encourage you. Customer care, I think that's another area that small businesses can really, really outplay the big guys. Make sure that you're taking care of the customers and do it proactively. Don't wait for the phone to ring or the email to come in or something posted on your website or on social media and says you did a bad job, right? Proactively reach out to people. Back up for a moment. Look at the things that you're buying for your business or you're buying personally and analyze each of those products or services and see what kind of customer service you got. You're going to find certain businesses, usually a small number, are really taking care of their customer. And I'm not just talking about when you have a complaint or a concern. Look at that. There are a lot of valuable lessons in there that are not hard to adjust to in your own business. Now, granted, if you're not doing the things you need to do for good customer service, customer care. It may take some time to change the culture, if you will, of your business, to get your people, your vendors, and people on the same page. This is what's important right now. This is a priority for us in our business today and every day going forward. So it may take a while depending on where your culture is in your business. Next, make sure you identify what your particular strengths and weaknesses are and invest your time and money in your strengths. Don't waste your resources on responding to every move that the big guys make. We should already have done a strength and weakness analysis, right? A SWOT analysis, so that we understand where our business is strong. The weaknesses, we can work on those every day to get them up to an acceptable level and maybe turn them into a strength. But take those strengths. How can you leverage those to make you even stronger in the competition with the big guys? And finally, make sure your business is not trying to be everything to everybody. Define areas that you specialize in the products you manufacture or sell, the services you provide. Make sure your business is specialized to the areas that you truly can support, particularly that you personally as a business owner or manager feel most confident about, particularly those areas where the market has the most opportunity for you to excel and win the game. Too many businesses reach out and try to do everything for everybody. Well, we're going to take our final break of the day, and I'm going to come back and finish up with my tip of the week. Always remember, we're here to listen to you. That's our customer care, and we'd love to hear from you. That mailbag, Adam, came from somebody sending me an email. Please send me your emails, your comments about the show. Real simple. Just send them to bestconsult@gmail.com. That's bestconsult@gmail.com. So please stay with us. We'll be back from a short break, and we'll finish out today's program with my tip of the week. Thanks.
Does your company have needs that can be met by an employee who is dependable, hardworking, enthusiastic, motivated, cooperative, respectful, and punctual? Conroe Independent School District Special Education Department can meet your needs by connecting you with potential employees that have been preparing for a lifetime of employment. We have numerous individuals seeking paid and unpaid work experiences. If your company is interested in seeing how we can meet your business needs, call Conroe ISD Special Education Department to find the best employees for you at 936-709-7671.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler, your host. Thank you again for joining us. This is our final segment. It's going to be a little bit short because the conversation, which I think was definitely worth the time with Scott Harper, ran a little bit long. But let me at least kind of tickle your fancy about this 5 biggest challenges for small business in America today. Because I think these are important. And what I'm going to do is next week, I'll finish these up and kind of tie it all together. Most of these are fairly obvious. The challenge is money. Do you have the reserves? A lot of folks had to spend and didn't have the revenue coming in during the pandemic. So we'll talk about that a little bit, of what really is critical in ways potentially you can increase the money you have so your reserves are built back in case of any hiccups or you need to purchase new equipment, et cetera. But we'll touch on that. Communications, I've talked about that in last year in 2021. I want to double back on a couple of things that have popped up. Human capital, you heard it from Scott. It's hard to find good people today. Hard to find any people, quite frankly. Human capital is really a huge challenge. Maintaining and restoring growth and quality. That has to be done. I think too many businesses are overlooking that. So, and then keeping your personal passion where it needs to be, sort of like keeping up. We'll double back on those next week and we'll go through them and I'll provide a little bit more detail. So please tune in. Next week, 11 o'clock, we'll be here live on the Weekly Business Hour. In the meantime, thank you for joining us, and remember to stay in touch with what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Community Radio. And as I always tell people, until next week, stay engaged this week and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.